Hello, everybody. It's Chris here again, and today I'm going to tell you guys my full visual snow story. So this is something that I really feel like I should share with the world because I feel like my story is a little bit more in depth and unique than a lot of other people's, and it might help us understand what visual snow actually is, and or you can relate in some way to my story and help us understand it a little bit better. So if you guys want to leave your story in the comments below, feel free. But this is my story from start to finish. It's a full rant. However long it takes me to get through it, I'm going to do it. Could be 30 minutes plus for this video, which is kind of crazy. Anyways, so to start, I should mention that uh, I officially got visual snow syndrome in April of 2023, but there's a prequel to that. Okay, and the prequel is that starting in about 2021, every year I was getting weird things happening with my eyes. So a couple of years prior to that, I got like LASIK, so my eyes were like 20/20 vision, everything perfect, never have to dealt with contacts ever again. Didn't have any complications with LASIK overall. I mean, dry eyes for a little bit, but everything kind of got normal. Eventually, I scratched my eye on a bit of glass or acrylic. I went to the eye doctor about it. I had like light sensitivity for quite a while, but eventually that went away. And soon after that, the next year, right at the beginning of the year, right in spring, I got this weird bout of light sensitivity. So it lasted for like 10 days. Didn't get any migraines or anything around it, but I had this crazy light sensitivity that I really felt like I was a vampire. Like I was like, oh my god, the sun! Ooh! Like it's exactly like it is in Skyrim or something. And I went to an eye doctor about it, and they're like, "There's something wrong with your eyes, bro." No idea. So the funny thing is, the next year, the exact same thing happened. I think it was a little bit later in the year, though. It wasn't directly in spring. I think it was somewhere in summer-ish. And the reason that I know that is because it was really, really, really hot when I had to bike to the eye doctor because my car broke. So, I don't even want to tell that story, but it's actually kind of hilarious. But any which way, I went to the eye doctor and I was explaining everything to him. It was an official ophthalmologist instead of like an optometrist or something like that. And he was like, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, no idea. Um, don't know why you have light sensitivity. So I was like, okay, sounds good. I guess I'll just move on with my life and hope that it gets better. And eventually it did. I mean, didn't have any crazy issues or anything like that for a long time until 2023. I got COVID. Then, right after that, I got the stomach flu. And then right after that is basically the start of my visual snow at some point. So, uh, I should mention that as far as the stomach flu goes, everybody in my family got it. My mom gave it to pretty much everybody in my family except for my wife. And so I know it wasn't like the virus itself that caused it. But right after I got the stomach flu, I started getting a bunch of ocular migraines, which is not abnormal for me. Like I said, I get them every 2 years, maybe once a year on average. I don't know. Like I like you don't keep track of them because it's just like 30 minutes and they're done. You don't even think about it again. So I knew what they were. They didn't scare me or anything like that. But for some reason, I got one on, I believe it was the Monday. I got one on Tuesday. I got one on Wednesday. And the one on Wednesday, I started getting this weird green dot that existed in my vision. And then I had another one skipping Thursday on Friday. And that green dot was still there, but it was getting way bigger. So the best way I can explain this is kind of similar to an after image. So if imagine, don't ever do this, but imagine if you like stared at the sun for like 30 seconds. Okay, just like stared at the sun and you looked away. What would you see? A big giant green blob in your vision, and it was just above my focus, like just above my focus. And of course, did googling and stuff like that, and people were like, "It's just a migraine, like a long-term migraine, and hopefully it'll go away." So I was like, "Okay, okay, okay, that's fine." But migraines, if they last longer than 3 days, are supposed to be dangerous, according to Google. Be careful. Maybe you've got something wrong with your brain and you should go see somebody about this. And I freaked out a little bit. I'll admit it. I'm like, I really want to have my vision because it's getting worse after 3 days. It's not getting better. Usually migraines, they happen and then they like get better. And it wasn't. It wasn't getting better for me. So I decided to go to the emergency room. And this is a stupid mistake on my part, but hindsight's 2020 for a lot of stuff. And I went to the ER and the doctors, of course, sitting in the room for like 6 hours. I was the last person seen at the end of the night, like 1 in the morning. And they're like, we're going to send you for a CT scan. We're going to check your blood work. And last thing we're going to do is we're going to give you 2 drugs. We're going to give you Benadryl and Reglan. So sorry, that was very vibrating. My CT scan came back perfect. My blood came back normal. And my drugs, they're like, we're going to give it to you through an IV. And it's going to be Benadryl and Reglan. And the Benadryl is supposed to chill you out, and the Reglan is supposed to, I think, sort of clear out your system. So if there's anything that's really bothering your system, it just sort of like takes it out of you. And yeah, so I hadn't eaten anything all day. I was sitting in the emergency room for like 6 hours, obviously not feeling good, and all this stuff. And for whatever reason, that Reglan gave me my first ever panic attack of my entire life. By a lot. So I don't, obviously hindsight 2020 again, but like you see panic attacks in movies where people go and they start freaking out. For me, it wasn't heavy breathing. It was just, oh my God, dashing eyes back and forth, like, what do I do? I'm here. I can't be here. What do I do? How do I get out of this? And it was literally the fight or flight response just like activated in my brain somehow. I remember looking at my phone and saying, oh my God, this is really weird. And I was like, I think I have to text Amanda. I tried to text her and I threw my phone on the ground. And I'm like, oh wait, you know what? Hold on. Let me open up Clash Royale and chill myself out by playing a game. And I tried to open up Clash Royale so I could play a game. And literally I got like 5 seconds into a game. I threw my phone on the bed again. I was like, and I pushed the nurse button a bunch, and I was like, you got to take this out of me, right? And she's like, are you sure you want me to take the medicine out for you? And I'm like, yes, please take it out right now. And she turned off the IV, and for the next like 15 minutes, I was like, that was awful. That was terrible. Absolutely brutal. The weird thing is like, even though I had those feelings, my heart didn't freak out too much. It just, they already had me in the full get up, and they had me, on the blood pressure machine and everything. They would check every, I don't remember, a couple minutes or whatnot. And I remember it wasn't that intense. It wasn't that crazy. But I felt so unbelievably off about everything. And then they're like, okay, now it's time for you to just go home. Can't do anything for you. So I was like, what? You gave me my first ever panic attack and you freaked me out about all this and then you're just like, and get out of here now? Like, I was 10 times worse after the ER visit than I was before the ER visit. But any which way, first ever panic attack. They're like, what you need to do is follow up with an ophthalmologist and a neurologist. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So I went to the ophthalmologist first because I could get an appointment pretty quickly. And he said, your eyes are actually completely fine. There's nothing wrong with your eyes. It's all in your brain. And he's like, go see a neurologist about it. So when I tried to set up an appointment with a neurologist, the person who was on my sheet that I was supposed to go see, was like, they're like, he's in the ER. He doesn't see patients. And I was like, oh, okay. So I had to try to find a neurologist. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of neurologists in the world. Whatever. And I was able to get one out of network just to see one because I was like, I'm freaking out a little bit. I'll admit it. And I go see the neurologist about this. And don't forget that this entire time, I have a big green splooge in my vision. All right, just the entire time. Day, night, whatever. It's always, always, always there. And it's shining right into the center of my vision. There's no looking away or closing your eyes. No escape. It's freaking terrible. But either which way, I find a neurologist that I get to go to. I talk to him, and he's like, I've never heard of something like this. I'm sorry. It will do an MRI just to confirm that there's nothing wrong with your brain, and we'll go from there. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. Not network, couldn't get the MRI. Eventually, I go to my primary care physician, and he says, I know what's wrong with you. You have status migrainosis. It's just a migraine that lasts too long. So keep in mind that I told the eye doctor about the static that I was seeing, and the way I explained it to him is I saw the world as RGB, just little tiny dots of RGB everywhere. And a lot of the doctors, it's kind of funny, they didn't know what RGB meant. I don't know why, but RGB to doctors was not a thing. You would think that they would understand that what that means, but being a tech guy, everything RGB mouse, RGB blah blah blah, none of them got it. But that's the way I explained it because everything was very very colorful, mostly greens, reds, and blues. And nowadays it's actually a little bit different with sort of like infinite colors. But back then, like at the very beginning, very RGB for me. But any which way, I explained all this to him. He's like, guess it makes sense. The brain's braining. It's not really actually doing things. I'm like, okay. So he obviously couldn't diagnose me. And this entire time, I still did not know that I had visual snow syndrome. I want to point that out there. I still thought I had a migraine, a status migrainosis migraine, because that's what I was officially diagnosed with by a doctor. And even after I went to the neurologist and everything, they're just like, I don't know. So he said, yes, you have status migrainosis, and you are eventually going to get better. I was like, okay. He's like, you got to wait it out. So it's like, oh, okay, sounds good. So I waited out about 2 weeks later, I think 14 days from like the exact start, it started to get smaller. Okay, that green splooge was going bloop, 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 and eventually turning down into, I don't want to say nothing, but almost like an artifact. It was just these two little dots next to each other, like really tiny little baby dots that were next to each other. And I realized actually that that green splooge was not a perfect circle. It was actually a bit of an oval. Okay, it was like a bit of an oval, and as it went smaller and smaller and smaller, it sort of converged on itself onto these two little baby dots. Again, I have no idea why. Maybe neuro-ophthalmologist could probably maybe understand what the heck's going on with that, but it's like my vision got screwed up so bad and like it was trying to fix itself or something. I don't know. Any which way, at this point, I still am undiagnosed. I eventually have the migraine go away, but I'm still getting a bunch of ocular migraines. So I went from getting them multiple times a week, for example, 4 times in that first week, to having them about 2 times a week, to eventually having them about 1 time a week, to eventually having them about once every 2 weeks. And at this point, the doctor was like, do you know what you should do? You should take this drug. You should take propranolol. And propranolol is, if you don't know, it's a drug that's supposed to do 3 things. They don't know exactly how it works specifically in the brain, but the way they do know that it works is that it blocks adrenaline from hitting your heart, from working on your heart. So if you are, for example, giving a speech and your body starts freaking out a little bit, and you get a little bit of a burst of adrenaline, your heart's going to start beating faster and harder, and you're going to freak out a little bit, but this is supposed to, like, stop that. Okay, and he wanted me to take it pretty continuously, and he put me on a dose of 20 milligrams. He said ramp it up from 10 milligrams to 20 milligrams within about a week. Actually, I think he said 3 days, and I did it over a week. When I was taking the 10 milligrams, I can tell you that I felt a little goofy, a little weird, a little off. And when I took the 20 milligrams, I passed out. Or I shouldn't say passed out. I nearly passed out. My entire vision was tunnely vision green, like a green overlay over everything, with this weird tunnely dark green kind of in the middle, and it was really, really, really weird. I'm sorry, the light, when I do that with the lights, it ends up trying to fix itself or whatnot, but it's the best way I can explain things is with my hands, right? So, I took the 20 milligrams and I started to pass out, and right away, I went to the doctor. I'm like, bro, this is not working for me. I never even explained what propranolol does. So that's the way it kind of like works. But the way he explained it to me was that it does 3 things for me. It's going to stop ocular migraine somehow magically. It's going to decrease your anxiety, and it's going to lower your blood pressure. And those 3 things are things that you need. You need the ocular migraines to go away. You need slightly lower blood pressure, and clearly, based on all the things you've been dealing with, you've got a lot of anxiety, Chris. So it's like, all right, fine. And that's why I gave in, even though he told me multiple times he wanted me to take it. And I told him, no. And I gave in. I'm like, maybe it'll help. So at this point, still not diagnosed with visual snow. Still don't even know that visual snow exists. And I go through this entire process of having weird issues with taking this drug. And eventually he's like, you know what, why don't you just lower your dose to 15 milligrams? And I was like, can I just do 10? I didn't pass out with 10. And he's like, yeah, just do 10. It's the lowest dose you can take. Keep in mind that this is something that some people take hundreds of milligrams with. You can take a lot of it. I'm taking 10, 20. Like, what are the lowest doses? So I see why the doctor was like, this shouldn't be affecting you almost at all. Nothing should be happening to you. But clearly, Something was happening to me, let me tell you. Um, and I told him, and I know I'm complaining a little bit about this doctor, but I told him that I was having issues and all this, and he said these are just side effects that are going to go away. You're just going to adapt to it. It takes about 6 weeks to get used to them, like an SSRI. So, uh, yeah, yeah, I know it feels like he lied to me a little bit about that. But anyways, I took 10 milligrams for a while, for 3 or 4 weeks. Eventually, I had a weird issue with my ear out of nowhere, um, where I couldn't hear out of my right ear, and it sounded like there was like water in it. I ended up going to the ear doctor about it, and I'm like, just assuming they're just gonna maybe drain my ear or something like that, because I've never had that done before. But I was like, sure. And he said, oh, there's nothing wrong with your ear. You just can't hear out of your ear. And I'm like, yeah, I can't hear out of my ear. He's like, I don't know. Take this drug if you want. I'm like, okay. So I didn't take it because I'm already taking another drug that was kind of freaking me out a little bit. But um, I I don't want to get lost in my thoughts here, but there was a lot of intermixing things going on, and keep in mind that this drug really screwed me up, and I don't remember every single detail because the drug screwed me up. It screwed up my brain. I'll get to that in just a second. But I was taking 10 milligrams for a while, and then all of a sudden, randomly throughout my life, I was having these really weird episodes of of really crazy feelings. And this is another hindsight is 2020, or hindsight is understanding. I didn't know what was happening to me at the time. I had no idea. I just remember that I was sitting there and just being like, "Whoa, this is really weird. I don't like this feeling." And I was like eating food or something like that. I like couldn't eat food anymore. I wasn't hungry at all, and I had a bit of a like, whoa. It was like a weird in a rush kind of up my spine into my skull, like a heat feeling. It was really, really weird. And again, in hindsight, I know what it was. It was a huge adrenaline rush. Okay, but at the time, still had no idea what was going on. I was like, adrenaline's going to make my heart pump, but propranolol, doing this propranolol thing, was making sure that my heart did not pump any harder. Even at that super crazy low dose. It was just like, no, chill you out, Chris. I remember taking my blood pressure like the first time it happened. I'm like, no, I'm chill, obviously. And I feel like a normal person. I still felt like I was myself. But it was just like, whoa, intense feelings. Yeah, my dogs are in here, so I'm sorry if they are any bit annoying here. But eventually I got more of them. I didn't just have one. I had many of these weird, crazy feelings, and I was like, I don't know what's causing this, but it's gotta be uh the drug. And right after that, I ended up making a video telling people about my experience with my weird eye stuff, and found out that I have visual snow syndrome. So this is when I found out. This was April when I started having visual snow, and I think it was probably around August when I finally figured out, boom, it is visual snow syndrome. 3 4 months of just what's wrong with me, status migrainosis kind of nonsense here. And at this point, I'm like, oh, like, should I even keep taking this drug if that's what is wrong with me? Because this does not seem like a drug that's going to be, that's going to help visual snow. So eventually I'm like, I think I got to get off this thing. It's causing me to have these weird adrenaline rushes. It's not really stopping my ocular migraines very well. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's making me freak out way, way, way more. And I went to the doctor about it, and he said, you can stop at any point. You're on such a low dose. You're on the lowest dose you can possibly take. There's no reason you would need to keep taking it. You could just stop. And I was like, okay. He's like, at any point, just stop. I said, okay. He's like, just cold turkey. I don't need to like slowly ramp down or anything. He's like, how are you going to go less turkey on it, right? He's like, you're already taking the lowest dose. Like there's not really a 5 milligrams. You could technically cut a pill in half, but okay. So I I eventually stopped. And what was weird about this stopping was that I did not understand that you could feel pure, calm blissfulness of just not a care, not a worry in the world until I stopped taking propranolol. For about 2 to 3 days after that, I was like, I just remember just laying down and being like, oh, this feels great. Like I was like high, even though I was taking nothing. Just like high of like, oh, this is beautiful. Life is great. I love this. And oddly enough, I still have visual snow. Okay, I still have visual snow. Still have visual snow syndrome. And I was looking online and I was obviously researching, and people suggested doing different things for visual snow. And a lot of people were suggesting taking different types of vitamins or things. And at that point, I was like, I'm willing to try anything, bro. I want something to make this thing go away. And I would like to mention that I had almost every symptom in the book by this point. Like it was actually ramping up and getting worse during all of this by a significant amount. And I took this weird drug off of Amazon called inositol, which was like a B vitamin. Well, it shouldn't have been anything intense or crazy or anything, but um, I heard somebody mentioning it, and I was like, it was like $5. Let's give it a shot. Why the heck not? So I remember taking this pill about 3 or 4 days after I stopped taking propranolol, and I took the pill, and I remember there was a little bit of anxiety in myself. I was like, I don't normally take things, you know. I was like, oh, I don't really feel that great. I was doing things for maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I remember sitting on the toilet, and I was literally taking a poop, and I was like, my heart's beating real hard, like really hard. And I was like, what's going on with my heart? And uh, I was like, oh my God, my heart's actually beating really fast too. And I'm like, not like trying to push out a turd or something like that. I was just taking a poop like normal. I don't have any problems with that usually. So I was like, let me go check my blood pressure. So I was checking it quite a bit because when I was taking propranolol, it was lowering my blood pressure like a lot. Like I normally was 130 over 80 or something like that, and on propranolol it was getting down to about 105 to 110 over like 50 to 60. It was like a lot. And the lowest dose, the 10 milligrams or whatever, it was like lowering a lot. And I checked it, and it was like 160 over 80 or 160 over 90 or something. And I'm like, whoa, that's actually really high. And at this point, I was like, why is this happening? This is kind of weird. And I'll admit, anxiety got the best of me a little bit. I was like, why is this happening? So I did a couple Google searches, like why, blah, 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 why is this happening to my heart? Panic attack happening or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I've never felt something like this before. My heart just kept beating harder and harder and harder, and it felt like it was beating out of my chest very, very hard. And I was like, let me go get my Apple Watch that my wife let me borrow, her old Apple Watch. Put the Apple Watch on. I'm like, oh, man, my heart rate is already 160 just sitting down. And I remember watching it. And this may be also anxiety inducing. 160, 165, 170, 175. And I was like, let me go ride my bike real quick because maybe that's like what I'm supposed to do at this point. So I was like, I'm going to go ride my bike. So I get down on the exercise bike and I start riding my bike a little bit. It's a very similar feeling to the feeling that I had in the hospital when I had my first ever panic attack. And this time around, my heart was going crazy, though. Crazy. So I remember thinking to myself, if my heart rate ever goes over 190, I'm going to call an ambulance because I might be having a heart attack or something, And I want to make sure that I call somebody before I pass out and die because nobody's home, So I watched my heart rate. So I got off the bike and I was like, I'm just going to try to relax, try to chill. I went up and I just pet my puppies very relaxedly as much as I possibly could. Hit 190. And I got to call an ambulance. So I sat there, hit 911. I'm like, I think I'm having a panic attack. My heart rate's at 190 over whatever. My blood pressure is like really, really high. And I don't know what's going on. And they're like, we're going to call you an ambulance. I'm like, I'm not sure I need an ambulance. I'm not sure I need an ambulance. They're like, we're going to send an ambulance. So fire truck came. Ambulance came to my house. Luckily, they're literally a block away. So it felt really weird. But I just walked outside and I'm like, I think I'm having a panic attack, guys. This is funny because, normally when people are having a panic attack, you see them going, or like something like that. I was like literally just like, I'm having a panic attack. It's kind of weird. And like, of course, my body's still freaking out. I'm freaking out a little bit, but like externally, just like This is pretty tense. I don't really like this feeling. I hate it actually, but I can't think straight right now, and my heart is going crazy. And they're like, okay, let's check you out. They bring me in the ambulance real quick, and they check my blood pressure, and it was over 200. It was like 230 or 220 over like really high, like 150 or something, 140. And I forgot. Before all of this, I was like, maybe it was the propranolol that I stopped taking that's causing this to happen to me. I better take a quick propranolol. It's supposed to lower my blood pressure. So I took a 10 milligram propranolol before that, and it didn't kick in. It didn't kick in time. And I go out to the ambulance, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's 200 over whatever, and your heart rate's still 185. And they're like, I think we need to take you to the thing. And I'm like, can we check my blood pressure one more time? I think I might have been flexing a little bit. And they're like, okay, sure. And they checked it again, and it was like 180 over something. And I'm like, oh, good, it's going down. It's going down. Either the propranolol's kicking in, or I'm chilling out, or whatever. They're like, we need to take you to the ER. And I'm like, I don't really want to go. I'm like, I really don't want to go. Can we just check me one more time and see if my blood pressure is still going down? Because, like, maybe I'm fixed now. And they checked it again, and they're like, oh, it's 170 now. I'm like, oh, great. Okay, sounds good. Everything's getting better. We're all happy here. I don't need to spend a $3,000 ER bill right now. Ambulance bill, ER bill combo, and who knows what they're going to do to me there. The last time I went to the ER, it was a pretty bad time for Chris. So, so anyways, I eventually get out of the ambulance, and I just walk back inside, and it was just like, okay. So I called Amanda real quick, my wife, and I told her that I had called an ambulance today about my heart freaking out, and I don't really know what to do. So I made an urgent care appointment for the next morning to kind of get a checkup about what was going on. I just remember my heart feeling so sore, like literally muscly sore, hurty feeling. For like 24 hours, and I went to see the doctor, and I told him, I'm like, I don't know what I did. I took a vitamin, and my heart freaked out, and he was like, could have been the vitamin, could have been something else. I don't know what to tell you. And I was like, okay, great. So I kept taking the propranolol because I was like, obviously, clearly, I cannot be trusted without propranolol. So I took not only 10 milligrams, but to try to chill out a little bit, I took 20 again. And all those anxiety, adrenaline spikes that I was having got way, 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 way worse. Significantly worse by a lot. And I was getting, at some point, I was getting about 5, 6, 7 of them a day, or just whoosh, feelings just rushing up my head. And I was like, I gotta freaking stop this drug. I just gotta stop it. No matter what, I have to stop it. No matter what I have to do, I have to get off this thing. And it was like it sucked because it was like the problem is that the anxiety that the drug is causing is giving my heart problems, and to take the medicine, it makes my heart stop freaking out. So there was no real good answer here. It's just like gonna kind of have to deal without the drug for a while. So I went to another doctor and I asked their opinion, and they said, yeah, get off of it. Stop taking it. Cold turkey it. And I remember my blood pressure being in the doctor's office like 170 over something, and they're like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's going on? Like, you clearly have this huge anxiety problem. She's like, we're giving you, she's like, I want to give you blood pressure medicine. I want to give you this. I'm diagnosing you with general anxiety disorder. I want you to take this and that. I'm like, I don't need anything. I just need to get off propranolol. That's all I need. That's all I want. I just need your permission to say that I'm just going to fully get off of this thing and hope that my heart is still going to be working and pumping compliantly. She's like, your heart's going to be fine. I'm like, great. That's all I needed to hear. So the next week was probably the worst week of my entire life by a long shot, even worse than the time that I got visual snow syndrome the first time. So the first like 3 or 4 days, my blood pressure and my heart rate were in the 160s rate. My blood pressure was more like 160 over whatever. I remember the lower number was still always not too bad. It was the high number that was really bad, 160 over blank. And my heart rate was about 150. And this is like all the time. Like, I'm sitting down, I'm relaxing, trying to sleep. I'm doing whatever. I could not relax whatsoever, and like try sleeping with a heart rate of 150 over whatever. It's like impossible. So I was sleeping so bad. I was sleeping a couple hours a night, at most like 2 hours a night, just all the adrenaline flowing through my body all the time. At its worst, I had easily over 24 different adrenaline rushes, and I remember writing them down in my phone. I had a specific notepad that I used to keep handy, and I wrote down every single one of my adrenaline rushes, and every single time that it happened, I remember just trying to think happy thoughts. So, or not happy thoughts, but exciting thoughts. I was like, every adrenaline rush I get, I was like, I'm on a roller coaster. I would just be like, woo, this is fun. Like, my body's supposed to be having fun right now. Because it's adrenaline, yay. And it was the way that I kind of dealt with it a little bit. Just whoosh, because I'd feel it every single time. Like, it's weird, but you can feel the adrenaline go whoosh in your skull, in your brain, in your neck, whatever. You can feel the warmth of it. It's so goofy to feel it. But any which way, I wrote it down. It was like, again, easily over 24 in one day at its worst, and it slowly started ramping down. My blood pressure slowly started going down. My heart rate slowly started going down for the next 3 days to 10 days or so. It was going down, but then somewhere in there, I don't remember the exact day. Again, my brain is really wonky at this point. I ended up getting a lot of brain zaps and what I call brain thumps. I don't know the correct term for it, but brain zaps are like your brain literally feels like it gets a little small electrical charge. Like imagine like 3 or 4 9-volt batteries just like reset. I don't know how else to explain it. Just, and you're just like you don't actually move or anything. You just goes okay, all right. That was wild. Like very weird, but it's like it feels like your brain's resetting a little bit. Very, very fast though, just boom, and you're back at it. But I was getting hundreds of those over a couple days, and then I was getting brain thumps. So I didn't get that many of these. I probably got about 15, 20 total compared to the hundreds of brain zaps. And these were brain zaps, but I would actually have like a twitch. So my entire head would be like, my entire body was, I would like twitch. I called it a brain thump. And I think they were literally like mini seizures or something like that, from coming off this drug and from all the adrenaline that I was dealing with. So, I eventually everything slowly goes down, slowly gets more normal. But then I had a vestibular migraine. Okay, right after all the brain zaps went away and everything, I had something called a vestibular migraine, which is basically when you tilt your head this way or you tilt your head this way, the entire room spins to infinity. More than the drunkest I've ever been ever by a lot. If I turn my head this way, the entire room would spin this way. If I turn my head this way, the entire room would spin the opposite way. And if I ever laid down and I just did not have my head perfectly straight, the entire room would spin. So if I had even a 1 degree turn, it would go slower, but it would ramp up and start spinning. So I would literally had to try to sleep perfectly on my back, just like this. Otherwise, I would have crazy spinning issues. Literally in my dreams, I was spinning. It was just crazy. Very, 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 very hard to sleep. Let me tell you. So, vestibular migraine lasted about 3 to 4 days. I had weird focusing issues during it, where I'd be trying to look at something, I'd be like, just cannot focus for like a few seconds, and eventually that also went away. And after all that was said and done, my heart rate was, I don't want to say normal, but better. Less than 100, at the very least. Average. Blood pressure, medium high. 130 over something, but like normal-ish. Okay, normal-ish. And at this point, I have no idea what to do, but my life really feels like it was just about over. Imagine that my visual snow during this process was the worst possible thing you could imagine. I'm talking about every single symptom that anybody has ever talked about, all on top of each other, combined together, and be straight with you guys, multiplied in most situations by a lot. One of the ways that I like to explain my visual snow, just the visual snow itself, not talking about the orbs or the swirls or the X's in my vision or the full black holes that I was getting or the straight lines turning squiggly or the fractals that I was seeing, sometimes even during the day, or the infinite dots perfectly spaced about my entire vision, or the crazy tinnitus, or the millions of floaters, or the flicker vision, which it was almost like an old school camera, like, or not even a camera, like a projector, like just flickering of your vision. Not even all of that, but I forgot where my first thought was actually. Now that I'm thinking about all the symptoms here, I had all of that, and it like destroyed me. It like completely, utterly destroyed me. And I felt so weird and off and wrong. And my brain was like so slow and groggy and brain fog everywhere. And I did not feel like myself. I even had weird DPDR where I was like floating on the ceiling looking at my own self, like doing things. I was like, whoa, like this is what people think that they're like seeing when they're getting, having an out of body experience. Like I literally had an out of body experience. So, everything was freaking terrible. And I didn't know where to go and what to do. Luckily / unluckily, I started having jaw issues. Okay, and keep in mind that when you have adrenaline rushing through your body, what it does is it really tightens up all of your muscles. It gets your muscles ready to ramp up and ready to fight somebody, like literally, or run. But every single time you get that adrenaline, and you just keep getting tighter and tighter and tighter. If you're not like doing yoga and stretching and stuff like that. So my body was just a giant ball of muscle knots at some point during all of this, and that really screwed up my jaw. Okay, even my jaw, they're made of muscles, right? All of those muscles are so tight, and I went to the doctor because I started having TMJ issues. I started having a lot of clicking, like every single time I would move my jaw, even while talking, and it was killing me. On top of that, I was having weird ear issues and stuff like that, crazy tinnitus, all this crazy crap. Oh, and by the way, during all this, like all of the normal, what I was going to tell you about, that I forgot about earlier, was the visual snow. The way I like to explain it is that I like to imagine myself on a sidewalk looking at Christmas lights on a house. You can see the reds, the blues, the greens, the yellows. They have flickering. They have maybe icicle lights. Maybe they have some candy cane lights or something like that. Weird ball lights somewhere, just because. And then just take it with the house. That's what my vision was like. Just take it with the house. Just got lights flickering everywhere. All the lights, all the time. They did not go all the way out into my peripheral vision. It was mostly in the central main vision here. But it was just lights upon different colors, like huge, not grains. I'm talking about actual real lights just in my vision. And the orbs and the fireworks were just infinite colors. Any color you could imagine, man, just blowing up all the time. Like, trying to sleep with that was just freaking ridiculous. And again, that's on top of all the other weird visual snow symptoms, garbage that, like, it's just like your brain is malfunctioning up the wazoo. So, eventually I go to the doctor and I'm like, I got jaw issues. Can we maybe, because I was literally like going deaf in one of my ears. I'm like, it could be related to the fact that my jaw is clicking a lot, and then I'm also going deaf in this ear. So like maybe we can send me to PT. I'm like, I read on the Visual Snow subreddit. I didn't even say this, but I'm like, I heard that some people, they get benefits from neck stretching. It's like, maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe I'll do a jaw neck thing. And she's like, sure, get out of my hair. Just go, get out of here, leave. I don't want to deal with you anymore. You're crazy, obviously. So, I did. I went to PT, and PT did the diagnosis on me, and she's like, yeah, I mean, we can do some jaw stretches together, and I want you to do some neck stretches because you're pretty tight. I'm like, okay, great, let's do it. First week, no improvements, no nothing. I was doing all the exercises, every single thing that I could possibly do. In fact, it was actually making my jaw a little bit worse. Second week, same thing. Not really very much improvements in my jaw, but I will say that my shoulders and neck felt like a little bit better because I had to do the general gist of things is to do any stretch that you want to elongate. You do it 30 seconds, 3 times a day. That's a 1.5 minutes on each individual muscle. Do you know how many muscles you can get done in a day at that point? It's not many, dude. And you can't do 1.5 minutes on one because that'll like hurt it. So you have to do 30 seconds, then again 30 seconds later, then again 30 seconds later, 3 times a day spread out. So really you're supposed to do like 10 to 15 minutes of stretching 3 times a day on all these different muscles. And I really kept up with it. So uh what was weird was somewhere in the third week, which was supposed to be my final week of physical therapy, I remember stretching out really hardcore. Stretching out, it was actually not my right side, it was my left side, because my left side was significantly tighter than my right side. And I remember doing some weird stretches right in the back here. And I remember the next morning, and I used to have Sahara Desert level dry eyes. Best way I can explain it, just sandpaper in your freaking vision, man. Eye drops would make it worse, okay? And I know that there's like super special prescription eye drops that probably would make it better. But like every eye drop that I tried, it just like made me like, I gotta put eye drops in my eyes every 3 minutes now. Like this is just freaking absurd. So it's almost better just to deal with regular dry eyes without having to put things in my vision all the time and screw me up and burn and sting and everything. So I remember waking up though, and there was literally a tear in my eye. And I said this in my other video, but I felt like crying because I had a tear in my eye because it felt so nice to finally have a wet eyeball. The only other time that I had a wet eyeball besides this was the stinging sensation of doing onions. Other than that, I couldn't cry, like physically cry. I couldn't like make myself make tears if I tried. I could like touch my eyeball and it wouldn't make tears. Onions would for some reason like make me tear a little bit, and of course it took a lot of stinging to make that happen. Or sometimes I could hold my eye open so long, my eyes would sting so hard that it would be like, okay, finally, we'll give you a little bit of something. But like generally, driest eyes ever. I did the stretch. I woke up and I had a tear in my eye, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I did a stretch. It made me tear. And I kept doing those stretches. And my dry eyes kept getting better and better. And that was the number one main thing that got me on my road to wanting to do stretches in yoga. That was the first thing that I could directly see. Bam, boom, biggity bop. It fixed itself. Okay. So I went back to my doctor and I'm like, hey, this physical therapy helped me a lot. Oh, by the way, I didn't even tell you guys. I totally forgot about all this. So when I went to the urgent care, I'm going back in time now for a quick second. When I went to the urgent care after my panic attack, they tried to draw my blood. And when they drew my blood, she put the needle in right here in my arm. And probably the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. She's like, ooh, I missed. And I was like, oh, wait. That hurts really bad. Oh, God. And I remember, like, seeing, like, a big squirt of deep, dark red blood go and just squirt out of my arm. And she's like, oh, let me wipe that off. And I was like, that hurt really bad. But, like, okay, I'll get over it. And that next morning, my entire arm was like, numb and tingly and hurty. And I couldn't move it anymore. Anytime that I would move my arm at all, I had a 10 out of 10 pain. I don't know how else to explain it, but it was like a 10 out of 10 pain. Just like, oh, what the fuck? And this lasted for months, many months. I could not use my left arm anymore. I just was dead arming the entire time, just making sure nothing touched it or hurt it. And I went to multiple doctors about it, and they're like, I don't know, probably hit a nerve, maybe hit a something else. I'm 99% certain that we hit a tendon while getting my blood taken. So when I went back to the physical therapist for the second time, because I didn't get the first time noted from the doctor that she could work on my arm, I was still dealing with a dead arm that the physical therapist was not allowed to touch because it wasn't in the note. And eventually, I went back again for a second dose, and she's like, "Oh, back again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we got to fix my arm. I got to keep working on my jaw. Things are actually working." Um, so she's like, "Okay, great." We were working on my arm, doing weird stretches and exercises and stuff, and doing all these weird things. And it took me about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months for my arm to 99% heal. I think at this point, I'm about 9 months away from that. I would say I'm 99.9% healed. I still feel a weird thing every once in a while, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't care about it anymore. Old injuries, whatever. But again, it wasn't my fault. It was, like if I was stupid and I was doing something and I fell off a thing and I hurt myself, like, okay, that's my fault. I went for a regular old blood draw. Had the nurse just screw me over and hit me up and hit my tendon, and I couldn't use my arm for 6 months. It was just freaking brutal. It was just everything on top of itself. Everything on top of itself. But I went to physical therapy for it. I got my arm kind of back in order where it was almost fully healed by the time I was done with the physical therapy. Um, where we're doing grip strength tests and stuff like that, and I was actually able to do it pretty easily. But I would still have weird pains for it. But any which way, I noticed that during doing all these stretches and everything with my jaw and my neck, that my visual snow was getting better. The after images, not so much. The floaters, not so much. But specifically, the visual snow seemed to be lessening. And so I had another 3 weeks with her. I went through my 3 week stint, and that means I got about 6 to 7 weeks of physical therapy because I think I skipped a couple days somewhere in the middle, so I got like technically 7 weeks out of it. And after all was said and done, my arm was nearly healed. My visual snow was getting better at the time, and I was like, I need to keep doing this. I need to keep doing what was making it better, and I'm going to keep on doing it. I'm going to keep on doing it with yoga. Unfortunately, when I asked the physical therapist about different parts of my body, like, why is this all happening to me? Like, I've always had pain in my legs. She couldn't really explain why. Um, but she tried to teach me a couple exercises to help out, but I kind of had to unfortunately figure that out on my own, all my leg issues. And at this point, I am a hardcore yoga guy now. I try to do yoga at least a couple times a week. I was doing it pretty much 6, 7 days a week for a couple months with exercises and all this other stuff. And now for sure, no matter whenever I work out and then I stretch after. Okay, I don't just work out and then just I'm done. I work out and I stretch it out after. I almost make it like if I worked out for 30 minutes, I stretch for at least half the time, 15 minutes. If I go on an hour bike ride, I have to do a 30-minute stretch afterwards. All my legs, all my arms, all my neck, all my everything. I've been so tight my entire life that I have to unfortunately not just loosen up to back to what I should have been. I have to undo all of the bad things that I've done to my body my entire life by being tight and I don't want to say being inactive, but being not the right amount of correct activeness and all that stuff. So any which way, that's my story. Yeah, I had a lot of really weird things. I will say that I believe that I had the worst visual snow on the planet for multiple months of my life. Kind of the middle of propranolol to about a month after propranolol. I truly have never heard a story of somebody having worse visual snow than me. And I don't want to like brag or anything like that. I don't think of it as a medal, but it does allow me to say something like, it can get better. To the people who have it really bad. You are not stuck. If I can get out of that gravity well that is visual snow, I think you can too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not 100% cured. I'm not 100% perfect anymore right now. I still have some mild visual snow. I still have some after images. I still have some floaters. Still have some tinnitus. Still have some jaw issues. But everything is a lot better. And I really feel like I can still look forward to the future now instead of being like, thinking about the crappy things that have happened to me in the past, which is something that I think a lot of visual snow people can probably understand, that you just think about, what if I just didn't do this thing that caused my visual snow? What if I just did this instead? And what if I just do something else about visual snow, or visual snow this, visual snow that? If I learn enough about visual snow, eventually I can understand it and I can fully get it going. But I will say, again, the number one thing that helped me was stretching in general, and specifically I don't think that you need to do regular old yoga. I think that you should do almost like dancing move yoga, where you do all the different weird muscles that you never use in your regular life and get them all loosened up and this stuff and work them out at the same time that you're stretching them, because oftentimes you want to get the blood flowing and then you want to stretch them out. You don't just want to stretch a cold muscle. So that's my beliefs. That's what I think. I know that this was a bit of a rant story and not a perfect story because I don't have anything written down, but that's exactly what happened to me. And I hope this story can help some people out there. So if you enjoyed, you know what to do. Press that like button, subscribe, and have a super duper delicious day.